Good evening, everybody. Hope you're doing well. It's Wednesday Night Live, Solo Creator Q&A. Hope everybody's doing well. Hope everything's working. At least I can hear myself. Let me turn that up a little bit. How's that? Is that better? There we go. That should be better. I came in to start the stream. Like I checked it earlier today. Everything was good. Came in to start the stream. Nothing was working. I had to restart, start over. All of that, just, dear Lord, it's crazy. So, but I also have a new desk set up here, you can see, because this desk is now in place, which means all of this stuff changed, and all of that stuff changed, and the lighting and all that. So, it's great, though. I have to say, I'm very happy to have this desk in place, finally, because it's very nice. Hopefully you're all doing well. I'm doing great. Had a fantastic day yesterday. Had a good day today. If you saw my new video, hope you enjoyed it. I tried. I'm going to say hi to everybody in the chat, and then we'll get jumped into this because I have some really, really good footage to show you in just a little bit. And if you don't know, if you're just joining, if this is your first time here on this stream, this is about questions and answers. So if you've got questions about videos I put out or equipment that I use, or if you think you should buy this or that or the other thing, this is the time to ask them, and I'll do my best to answer those questions for you as we go. So Brad Alston, good to see you. Eddie Nunez, Intrigue, hi. Mohammed, good to see you. Brian Peterson, nice to have you back. Let's see, Eddie, Brad, JW Pitbull, good to see you too, friend. Liana, nice to see you. MD, good evening, welcome. And JR Smith, all right. I think that's most everybody. So we'll get started on the chat here. It's gonna be kind of chill, but it'll be a fun evening. Either way, it'll be a fun evening. Okay, first question. Let's see. Mohammed, you asked Sony A7 III or Sony A7S III. That is the question. If you have lots of money, both. because what is better than one is having both, right? No, if you're looking for a really good camera that performs well in almost every way possible, the A7S III, the A7 III is fantastic, and it's only about $2,000. Now, the one caveat to that is this, or the one exception to that is this. If you film yourself a lot, then instead of the A7S, instead of the A7 III, get the A7C, because it has the flip out screen, same sensor, same photo quality, same video quality as the A7 III, but you have that flip out screen, so you can see yourself better if you film yourself a lot. But if you're doing like lots of photo work, lots of video work, I would go with either the A7 III or the A7C. Both are fantastic. They're basically the same camera with slightly different form factors. And that's what I would do. If you do mostly video work, but you also like to do photos here and there, then the A7S III is really hard to beat for reasons I will show you in just a little bit in some footage that I captured yesterday. Just coolest thing ever. That's just completely a tease to get you all to hang out for a little while before we jump into it. But yeah, so that's what I would do. If you don't do lots of photo work, but you do photos here and there, they all go on social media websites and stuff, then the A7S III is great if you primarily do video work. Let's see. MDS, you're a beginner. Which would be better in low light, the A6400 with a Sigma 30mm 1.4 or the A7 III A7C with a 28-70 3.5 kit lens? You asked because you're confused. Let's see, 1.4 would be 2.8. So it's a tricky question there, MD, but it's a great one too. The A6400 with the Sigma 1.4 would probably do about as well as the A7 III with the kit lens. The difference you would see is as soon as you got away from the kit lens, if you got into a 2.8 lens or a 1.8 lens on the A7 III, A7C, that's where you would see a substantial improvement on the low light performance over the A6400. But the A6400 does a good job in low light. And if you have a fast lens like the Sigma 1.4, which would be about a 2.8 something equivalent, I gotta see, what would that be? That'd be about a f2, f2.2, something like that. So you would get a little better performance on the A6400 with the Sigma 30mm 1.4. It would be a slightly better performance overall. But in general, full frame is going to give you better low light performance until you get into the super high pixel cameras, because those tend to get a little noisier when they're in low light. But thanks, JW. I like this. It's really nice. It is really nice. So I did pipe underneath and wheels. Everything's on wheels. It's really exciting and really nice. Kershaw, welcome. Brett Alston, you just got the Mavic Air 2 and now you want that lens. Hey. Okay, so Freewell sent me that lens. And at first I was like, really? The last time I tried an inexpensive, like, wide lens or anamorphic lens, it was terrible. It distorted the image so much. The focus was bad. Everything was bad. But then I tried it out. I was like, wow, actually, this little lens does a good job. It has relatively good sharpness, edge to edge, and it's kind of fun. I don't know how you would, but if they could do a 1.3 or a 1.8 or a 2.0 anamorphic squeeze on a drone, I would be all over it. But that would be hard. Actually, it'd have to be a 1.3 because you can't really do a 2.0 squeeze on a 16:9 sensor. You get all kinds of weird aspect ratios. But a 1.3 anamorphic would be sweet. But it's still cool. The anamorphic lens for the Mavic Air 2 is pretty cool. And it's not that expensive. I mean, $40, it's not that bad. It's like 2 meals at McDonald's up here. Let's see. Liana asks if I'm still enjoying using the Weebill S and do I ever shoot manual focus using any gimbal? Tips, tricks. Thank you. Liana, yes, I still do use the Weebill S. When I take a gimbal with me for client stuff, I use the Weebill S generally. It's sitting over there. Right over there, you can see. Poor thing. Let's see. Right there. There it is. Right there. Poor thing has been through a lot because it has traveled with me extensively, and I'm not easy on my stuff, and neither is Alaska. But it's still working well, still performing well. The best trick I have for manual focus on a gimbal is, hey, Phantom Flight 101, you were going to want to stick around and see the footage I'm about to show because it's fantastic. Is 2 things. 1, shoot at a higher aperture if you can, like f8. If you can, the higher aperture, the more your depth of field of what's in focus is in focus. And so that helps you not have to nail focus like at a super tiny little depth of field. If you want to shoot at much wide open apertures like 2, 2.8, 1.8, something like that, like I've got the Sirui anamorphic lenses, which are a blast to shoot with, and that's what I shoot with on my camera or on my gimbal that's manual. Then getting the focus motor really helps because you can dial it in without having to touch the lens. Because anytime you touch the lens, you get these weird little jitters. No matter how careful you are, it just is. So those are my 2 tips. Like if you're gonna really if you want to pull focus or rack focus, you really have to get the motor because that's what you do on a manual lens. But if you want to set focus and then move through a scene or something, using a higher aperture, f8, f9, f7 something will help you get a larger field of focus of what's in focus and what's not in focus. So that's my advice on that. I hope that helps you. Miles to go. You attach your GoPro Max to your Autel Evo, getting amazing footage and so much freedom in post. That's nice. So interestingly enough, a video that's coming out Friday, on my channel, because this week is going to be like a 3 video week because of reasons. And the one after that will be about the A7S III again. But tomorrow, Friday morning, I'm releasing a video about ND filters from Freewell for the Insta360 series cameras, because they sent me the 360 the 360 camera filters and the 1-inch sensor filters. So, and most of that takes place on my very big FPV drone because it's fun to fly and it was fun to film. So thankfully, Freewell's been patient with me because it took me a little longer to get those videos put together. That's why there's going to be a couple this week to do. But yeah, so the 360 camera on top of a big FPV drone is really interesting and really fun. Yeah, so I bet you got some cool stuff on top of your Evo. Speaking of Evo, they're talking about sending me a loaner Evo to test and review up here in Alaska. So hopefully that will work out because I would like to do that. That would be fun. I'll put it up against the Skydio, the Mavic 2 Pro, and the Evo. I think that'd be sweet. So let's see. Have I dabbled in various recording media options in the A7S3, CFast, Atmos, etc.? J.R. Smith, the only thing I've used so far is CFast cards and a V30 card, which is what I've got. I don't have any like well, I might have one V60, and I might have messed with it a little bit. But I haven't dabbled a lot in it. I know you only really need the CFast cards if you're going to shoot 4K 120 in all-I, the long op, the massive file, the closest thing you can get to RAW internal on A7S3. So from there, you can shoot almost everything you want to shoot on a V90 card, and it's important to look and make sure it's V90 because a lot of them say they're super fast, but they're not, in fact, V90 cards. So I think Angelbird makes some great ones, and somebody else. I think Sony makes a decent V90 card, but maybe not. And then you can shoot V60 if you're like in XAVC-S and XAVC-HS. Up to, I don't know if sometimes you can shoot 120 and I don't remember which ones you can, but then most of the time it's like 4K 60. So, and you start losing some of your S&Q ability on those cards as well. So, the only thing I haven't tried yet, I'm trying to work on getting a Ninja 5 to work with the raw recording output of the A7S3. I would really like to try that out and see how it works and see how well it works. So, yeah. Be cool. MD, for sure you ask because you've got about $2,300 budget and both those setups are under that, and you would get a DJI Ronin SC with the 6400 setup. You wouldn't be able to get a fast full frame lens until later. Ah, gotcha. Gotcha, MD. So wait on the Ronin SC because tonight at a couple hours after the stream is done, DJI is announcing their new gimbals, which means the Ronin SC might drop a little more in price, or the new one might not be super expensive and it might be a better setup for you. Yeah, I would go for the A6400 and the Sigma. I don't know if I do the 35 1.4. How much is the 35 1.4? Let me look that up real quick. Except this is for Canon. There we go. See, honestly, I would get the. I would maybe steer you, or you're probably talking. Yeah, you're talking about the 30 millimeter 1.4, right, for Sony. Yeah, I would do that. That'd be a good setup. The A6400 with a 30 mil 1.4 would be a great setup for you, MD. Yeah, I agree with Real Light Pictures. If you can get the better combo and then upgrade your camera later, you could do that for sure. Yeah, the Sigma 30 is still a great lens. Oh, that's a lot more than I was thinking. The only thing I was thinking is that you may want something wider than the 30, and so going for the 16 1.4 would be good. And I've shot Astro stuff with the A6400 and the 16 millimeter Sigma and at 1.4, and it works. It does work. So and that's as low light as you can get. Yeah. So let's see. MDS, how do I like the new Sony A7S III menu system? It looks a lot easier to navigate and a lot better to navigate. It is a lot easier to navigate. It is a lot better to navigate. It makes it pretty nice. But if you've come from the old school Sony system, like I have now for 2 years, it's taken some getting used to switch to the new Sony menu system. But it is much better, and especially if people are coming from other camera brands, it's much easier to learn. Real light, have I seen the rumor of the Sony 16mm f1.8G master lens? I have, and dear Lord, would that not be fantastic? I did pick up this. Where is it? Hold on, stay with me. Where is it? Did I not? Oh, I guess I didn't take it with me. There it is. I did pick up this lens, the 24 G Master 1.4, for doing some astro and filming the Aurora here in a couple of weeks, and it is a great lens. Expensive, but a great lens. So yeah. But when I had my A6400, when I had my A6600, the lens that I had on it almost all the time was the Sigma 16mm 1.4. So the Sigma, though, that series of lens that Sigma produced are great. They're really good lenses. So yeah. Yeah, Real Light, I saw that, and I'm really excited about that. Agent Che, you stole my Sigma 16. Aw, I hope it's treating you well. Okay, I'm going to continue to talk and answer questions over this, but I don't want to keep you hanging any longer. So I do have some footage for you all to see here, and I think that you'll enjoy it. And I don't think... Did I not link this up? Okay, so I guess I was joking about that. Let me link this up. That is so weird. I thought I could have sworn I did that. Maybe I put it somewhere else. Anyway, we're going to just link this up real quick. Here we go. There we go. Click that. Click there. And we should be good. There we go. So I shot most of this, except for the last shot, with the Skydio 2, which means the Skydio 2 shot most of this because the Skydio kind of does what it wants to do. And I am still continually impressed by that drone. It does have its downsides. It does have its kind of weak points that it doesn't work so well. But what it does do well, it does fantastically well. And this is the kind of thing it does well. It takes the flying and the burden of thinking about where the drone's, what the drone's doing, where it's going, and all that, just pretty much off your plate, which is fantastic if you're trying to film yourself doing things in places like this, or in many different places. And so it's really good drone. There have been a few times where I've kind of gone, man, I wish I could have. I wish I had taken it out more with me this summer, and that's whatever. But I have been taking it out as much as I could lately, just because it's such a fantastic drone for doing this kind of stuff with. I hope this isn't stuttering too bad. My my internet appears to be taking a tank, so the joys of living in Alaska. But yeah, I was out sunset, exploring, checking out Alaska, having fun, enjoying it, and filming a video which you will see on Saturday or Monday. I'm not sure exactly when yet, but wow, it is really taking a tank. Why is it going so slow? Sorry, everybody. My internet speed is just crashing. That's perfect. And then this happened while I was filming in front of the camera, pointed this direction. This all started happening right here. Just, yeah. So for perspective, that is about 90 to 100 feet high, that ice wall there that you see. I was about 200 feet above the water filming, looking down, and that piece came down. It was exciting, very, very exciting. And so because I was filming in 4K 120 with the A7S III, I was able to then go and show it again, but slow it down to 20%. So you can see the entire gigantic house-sized piece of ice come down in glorious slow motion 4K footage because the A7S III is just that awesome. And then immediately after this, my kayak was on the other side of these rocks, thankfully, because the waves that this thing put out were like 6, maybe 7 feet high. And so immediately my first thought was, how high up out of the water did I pull my kayak when I started this whole thing? Because if it's not high enough, it's going to suck. And thankfully, it was high enough and I didn't have to worry about it. But yeah, those waves are no joke. And that is why you don't go next to the calving face of a glacier. You stay away and give it space, because that happens with little to no warning at all. It just boom, and then a piece goes off like that. Even in the winter, when everything's frozen, same thing will happen. So you just never go right up next to that side of a glacier, that face. Up on the sides of it is a little safer, and there are other places that are a little safer. But always respect those things with the respect they deserve, because they are incredibly awesome and powerful. So yeah, that'll be coming up. In fact, because I was literally sitting there talking and filming the video about the A7S III, and and then it started happening behind me, and I was just like, well, I'm just gonna step out of the way. We're gonna film this, which was awesome. Anyway, let's see. Thanks, Phantom Flight. I'm glad you stuck around for that. I knew you would enjoy it. It was a spectacular day, so beautiful, and to be able to go out there and capture it was nice. It was very nice. Yeah. Let's see. Intrigue all. As a solo photographer getting into content creation, do I suggest the Skydio or the Mavic Air? Holy cow, my internet is just wrecking. What is going on? Everybody in the neighborhood must be watching Netflix right now. Intrigue. So if you're going to be primarily filming yourself during the day, I would do the Skydio 2. It is fantastic. Now, you can't film yourself at night. You can film before sunrise and after sunset. I have done that, and I'll probably do like a 1-year review and sort of show what it has, what it's capable of as far as low light goes. Wow. This is bad data connection here. It's saying it's just All right, I think I fixed it. Hopefully that's better. Seems like it's better. Maybe. We'll see if it comes back up. It's coming back up here. So, oh Lord. Good. Okay. Yeah, it should. I just went and hit my router with a hammer, and then actually I ran an Ethernet cable from the router to my computer rather than doing it with Wi-Fi. It's apparently Wi-Fi is just sucking right now. So if that's better, great. All right. Yeah, you can see the calving one more time because it was awesome. It's spectacular to be out there and hear it and feel it happen, because when that thing goes like that, it's so incredibly loud. Just explosive. You feel it. Feels like a cannon shot. All right, what did I miss? So hopefully the lag is gone. Let's see if we're back. Did that work? Everything just quit. So we'll see if this works for the rest of the evening here. Yeah, should be back. Hopefully everybody's back. I've never ever had this many issues before. So anyway, all right, jump back into the chat. You almost look like Paul, except for everything still looks like 8K, while Paul looks like 360p. Thanks, Eddie. Agent J said he looks good. We all had AOL at some point. Oh, yeah, right. This is not AOL. This is just purely the fact that we have a couple of undersea cables that carries all of the internet for Alaska. They're not super high bandwidth, and anytime a fish goes by and bumps them, everything quits. So I think we're back, though. I think it looks more stable in OBS now. We're, bumping the higher ranges. That was weird. Whatever. Okay, Cliff, you asked me a question. Hopefully you're still here, because I think probably a bunch of people dropped off as soon as everything quit. Let's see. What do I think of the A7S III second gain stage being so high? Would it have been better at 4,000 to 6,000 ISO? I don't think so, because it is having it at 12,800 means you can shoot incredibly clean video at really low light, and that makes a huge difference having it set that high. And yeah, it does hurt the lower ISOs, but I found the noise it's fine up in the 3,000 to 4,000 range, and then it definitely gets noisy after that. Like after 6,400 is kind of my upper limit for the lower ISOs, and then from there 6,400 I will bump up to 12,800 to get the cleaner ISO on the A7S III. Let's see, Ricardo, you want to start vlogging, Jim, daily life, travel videos. What do you think the best starter camera would be from the A7 family? A7S III is out of the picture. For vlogging, get the A7C. No question, get the A7C. That's the best vlogging camera out of the A7 series, because it has the flip out screen that you can see yourself really well with. And it's full frame, takes great photos, really good video, good in low light, good in bright situations. That's what I would get. I've even been thinking about selling my A7 III and getting the A7C, but it doesn't really make financial sense for me to do that. It's essentially the same camera, same functionality, same sensor, same everything, just with another flip out screen. I really don't need that, and I can handle the body size. It's not that big of a benefit for me, because I already have the A7 III. But if you don't have the A7 III or the A7C, get the A7C. As soon as I get my hands on one, I'm going to do a review and a comparison between the A7 III and so on. But just getting my hands on one so far has been difficult. Yeah. What do you think of this angle? Is it nice? Oh, my battery finally died on that. Dang. And these two lights, so right here, right there and right there. Oh, that's weird. Right there. That color is being added by the Aperture MC lights, the little color lights that Aperture produces. So far, I'm pretty impressed with those things. They're pretty bright and they're pretty beefy, output-wise. Let's see. Eddie asks, what do I think about those new 7-inch long-range FPV drones with 6500 mAh batteries? They're pretty sweet. They're very long range. Super, super long range. And then you see people who are also combining lithium ion batteries, like 18650 batteries, to make a battery bank for their drones, and then flying with those. They're not as high discharge rate, but they do give you a lot of power in a fairly small package for a long time. So those are pretty cool too. My big 7-inch drone that I fly is 8 motors, so it's definitely, it could do long range if I had a big enough battery, I guess, because it will carry a crap ton of weight. But yeah, you will actually see it in the video coming on Friday, because I used it to film all the drone stuff with the Insta360 cameras. So pretty fun. Let's see. Ricardo, you was about to ask about low light in pictures. Would the A7 III be more future proof? No, I think the A7C, either one of those, but I would do the A7C because it's not that it's a newer sensor or newer menu or anything like that. It does have the flip out screen, which is really nice. It's a smaller body style, which is great for like travel, vlogging, moving, on the go stuff. It's great, but it's the same sensor and the same everything else. The internals pretty much are the same as the A7 III, just in a smaller form factor. So you get the same performance as the A7 III, just you save a little bit of money and you get a little smaller package, but same battery life, same photo quality and stuff like that. So that's what I would get, especially for vlogging, because you want to have that flip out screen where you can see yourself when you're setting stuff up. So Cardoso. Apparently I shouldn't even drink on stream. Goodness. So these are custom made studio monitors by a mastering engineer from Capitol Records who worked on all of the stuff like with Frank Sinatra, a bunch of other stuff. Anyway, he basically hand built 10 or 15 sets of these, and I got one pair. So it's they're fantastically phenomenal sounding monitors. They're extremely accurate, which can be good or bad depending on what you're doing, but they're very, very good. They're very, very accurate. And he literally would sit there and matched every switch, so they all matched as perfectly as possible, left to right. Mr. 305 for real, does the A7C overheat? Not that I'm aware of. And one thing with any Sony camera is you have to go in and set the auto power off temperature to high, because otherwise it will shut off early. But they work well. I'm not the best judge of overheating because most of my work takes place in colder environments. So I have done 3.5. I have done an interview with somebody with my A7 III and the A6400 that was 2.5, 3 hours straight long, like no break, no nothing, just that long. I don't recommend it, but it worked and they didn't overheat. The trick to not overheating is to pull the screen off the body so that there's extra airflow there and the screen isn't putting heat into the body. That definitely helps. And then make sure your screen brightness is turned down. Make sure your Wi-Fi is off. Anything that's drawing extra power you don't need, turn that stuff off, and that will definitely help. But Agent J is right. There is no overheating in Alaska. At least not in general. Uh, let's see. J.R. Smith, you'd like to see some color grading comparisons with the A7 III, S3, and the A7C. Yeah, that's the one thing. So when I did my comparison between the A7S III and the A7 III, the one thing I noticed was, one, the color, it is different in the default camera modes. Like, it definitely is different. But it wasn't as different as I thought it was going to be. Now, the A7C, I believe they use the newer color science, the new and improved color science. So as soon as I can get my hands on one, I'm gonna get one and do a comparison, same kind of comparison. Only there'll be a lot more snow in this comparison because snow is coming down the mountains. But I haven't been able to get my hands on one yet. Mostly because nobody really has them yet, other than the people that Sony has deemed special enough to send them out to early on. So, yeah. Oh, well, yeah, that's right. So, yeah, everything's being all kinds of funky. All of a sudden, it's saying I've got no viewers, nothing's going on YouTube. Yeah, everything's weird. It must be winter coming. Cardoso, you have snow on the forecast this weekend? Yeah, man. Our snow is coming down the mountains. I mean, you probably saw it in those Skydio clips. Like, it's working its way down. We will probably have snow in a week or two. I don't think we have anything in the forecast yet, and I hope not, but it's on its way. You have 8-inch KRKs. You know, the 8-inch KRKs are actually pretty good sounding. I used a pair one time, and they were not bad. I hate to sound like a snob. They were not as bad as I thought they would be. But then, and everything is reference. Like, if you come from studios where you're using monitors that are worth, tens of thousands of dollars, and then you go to a set of monitors that are worth a few hundred, it just, it's reference. But they're good. And what's most important is that you learn how they work, how they sound, and how they sound in your room. And then you know what sounds good and what sounds right, and you can do it anywhere. So, might last you an hour, maybe. Agent J, maybe. Let's see. So Ricardo, would the A7C be halfway decent for photo, aka better than your iPhone 10? Yes, light years better. The A7C is the same camera as the A7 III. So you get 24 megapixel full frame photos. They're fantastic. You get the newer autofocus system, which is better too because it locks the eye a little bit. Yeah, the A7C is the way I would go. Yeah, the A7 III's great camera too, but you save a couple $100 or maybe more right now. That's the direction I would go, especially if you're wanting to film yourself or take photos of yourself and you need that flip out screen where you can see yourself. It's really handy. Agent J, you need a wide-angle lens able to pick up the Laowa 10-18. Ooh, that's nice. So I haven't had a chance to use that Laowa lens. I have used other Laowa lenses. I used the 15mm on my cameras up here and a couple of other ones that I've used from time to time. And every time I've used a Laowa lens, I've been impressed by the build quality and also by the image quality. They're fantastic lenses. I really would like to get my hands on that 24mm probe lens that does the macro stuff. I think it'd be fun to shoot with. I don't know what I would shoot with it, but it would be fun. And yeah, I really do like Laowa lenses. They're excellent lenses. So they're coming out with it's like a 9mm no distortion full frame lens or something like that. I really want to try that out. I think that would be really fun to play with inside of glacier ice caves. Cliff asks if there's any interest in the new Sony FX6. Absolutely. I would love to get my hands on an FX camera. I personally wouldn't use it much just because the way I shoot, I've got to be pretty light and mobile, but the FX line are fantastic. And honestly, like if it's small enough and light enough, like the FX6 would be a camera, or the FX5 maybe, would be one that I would want to throw on my big FPV drone and capture cinema quality FPV footage in some of these places. So, yeah, great cameras though. Thanks, JR. Spark, do you have any chance to photograph Mars? Next chance is this close as 15 years away. I don't know yet. I've got to look at the at where it is and what time it is. Right now, we're just coming off a full moon, so photographing anything astro is not very good. Not this week, not this coming week, but like this coming week, a week from this weekend, and then the next week is supposed to be the highest aurora borealis activity we have had since like February of this year. So I will be going out and shooting a bunch at night then, and I think I might try and do it then maybe. But yeah, right now it's all cloudy and rainy, so I'm not shooting anything at night anyway. Plus we're coming off the full moon, so it's still too bright up here. But it would be cool. Agent J, you got it. 250, it's clean, but you're using it for real estate for your wife. Yeah, that's the one thing about the Laowa wide lenses. Their distortion is so low in those things. It's amazing, and it's phenomenal, and I love it. So, Christopher Cruz, first lens to snag for the Sony A7S III, 16-35 or 24-70, coming from Canon, so no current glass. Ooh. Christopher, do you really want the f2.8, the wide open, the low light aperture? Answer me that, and I will let you know. And what do you shoot primarily with it? Yeah. Answer me those questions, and I'll have an answer for you. J.R. Smith, did I install the hack to eliminate the recording limit on Sony? I have not, J.R. Smith. I didn't even know there was one, actually. Huh. I will have to look at that. Yeah, I'll have to take a look at that. Thanks, J.R. Smith. I might do that on my A7 III and see if it works. Mr. 305 for real, does the A7C have time-limited video? It does not. It has no recording limit because it's newer. Yeah. Yeah, basically since the A6400, none of Sony's cameras have had a recording limit that have been, introduced since then. Which is another mind-boggling reason I don't understand why Canon still is limiting their cameras to 30 minutes. That makes no sense at all. So, yeah. Huh. I'll have to try out that hack. It looks interesting. ARAM, what do I think of Z-cams? I like the look of Z-cams. My one issue is they still have some room to grow as far as how they handle like stopping a file and starting a new file and how you have to handle those files in post. But I do like what I see coming out of them. The footage looks great. They look like phenomenal performance cameras. I've thought about putting a Z-cam on my big FPV drone to do that kind of stuff with on there. I probably won't. I think right now the direction I'm probably going to go for a good camera on my FPV drone is probably the Blackmagic 4K or something, just because I don't want to invest a lot of money if I crash. I don't want to cry over a $6,000 kimono or a Z-cam or something like that. Cliff Totten, it makes sense. They protect their camcorder line. Yeah, it's true, Cliff, and that's the one. That's why I'm not with Canon anymore. Is it is what it is. So, let's see, Mr. 305 for real. Did I see the new clip for the Canon M50 that came out today? Yeah, that actually looks like a sweet little camera. I got to look into some of the details of it because I haven't had a chance to really dig into it yet. But it looks like a really cool little camera. ARAM, do I have any other anamorphic lenses other than the Sirui? No, I don't, but I would like to. It's just most of them are insanely expensive, and I I don't have a demand for anamorphic stuff, and so it's hard for me to justify going out and buying a $3, $4, $5, $6, $7,000 lens that nobody really wants as far as people I work with or work for. The Sirui ones I did buy, the first one, the second one they sent to me, purely just because I like shooting anamorphic. It's fun, and especially in the winter up here when everything's dark, it's really fun. So yeah, I haven't gone after any other lenses, but I would like to. I'd like to see some. I'd like to at least try them out. That would be fun. I'd really like to get a really wide angle anamorphic, put it on the Blackmagic, and put it on the FPV drone. I think that'd be fun. So, Christopher, let's see, 2.8 for sure. In terms of ranking priority, fitness models and their workouts, street photography, car promos, landscape architecture, least priority would be studio portraits. I would go with the 24-70 personally. Like, you could do all of that stuff with that lens, and I think it gives you the most versatility as far as what you're using. The 2.8 definitely, the 24-70. Let me see something here. Yeah, that's where I would go. The 24-70 for sure. Yeah, the only nice thing about the 16-35, and the only reason I would go that route maybe is you can get the 16-35 with optical image stabilization, and you get that little extra bit of image stabilization built into the lens. But honestly, with the A7 III, if you use either the gyro stabilization in post or the active stabilization in the camera, it does a really good job. And yeah, so if you want to do one, like if you want to get the most stable footage, I'm working on this now. I'm working on a video about it now. But so far, what I've kind of been finding out or leaning toward, and this isn't for sure yet, so keep an eye open for my video, but it seems like you get the most bang for your buck out of the Catalyst Browse gyro stabilized footage by not having any stabilization active in the camera at all. So I got to do a little bit more testing with that, and I got to go grab a 16-35 with image stabilization in it to test it to see, you know, just kind of what gives you the most stable footage straight out of the A7S III, or, you know, in the end, I guess, because you'd be working with it in post if you use Catalyst Browse, but yeah. Bonner, you demand more anamorphic stuff from me? All right, I'll work on that. I did for a while. I was really working on filming most of my B-roll with anamorphic and most like other shots, you know, not so much the talking head stuff, but other stuff. And yeah, I got away from it the last month or two. But yeah. Let's see. Does the A7C have autofocus? Yes, it has the same autofocus as the A7S III and the A7R4 and the A6600, which is fantastic. So, yeah. H&J, you want the gyro data? It is pretty nice. It's pretty cool. Even though there's like the extra step that you have to use Catalyst Browse to like go through the software and stabilize it, if it does do a really good job. The other thing to get better stabilized footage using Catalyst Browse and doing that process is you want to overcrank your shutter. So instead of like if you're shooting at 24 FPS, you don't want to shoot with your shutter at 50. You want to shoot it at 100 to get. It gives you better results in the end. That makes sense. Agent J, you hope Sony does a firmware upgrade to the A600 to give us gyro data. So the problem is I don't think there are actually gyros in the A6000 series, any of them that I know of. The only ones that I know that have gyro data is the RX0 Mark II, the A7C, the A7S III, and the ZV1. But the ZV-1 is kind of weird how it has gyro data, but it does have some gyro data. So, ARAM, are there any LUTs that I use for my A7S III S-Log footage? Yes, there are. I gotta remember where I got them. But actually, the standard Sony ones are really good, and they do a really good job if you expose your footage well and stuff. And that's what I've used a fair bit. And some of the built-in ones in Final Cut are pretty good actually for S-Log 3, depending on how you shoot. So, but with the A7S III, most of the time, I have been shooting with they're not the default camera profile anymore, but I have been shooting in some of the more basic settings, and yeah. So, let's see. You're welcome, Christopher. Femi asks, would I pick the A7C over the A7S III? I would pick the A7 III over the A7S III if I was, let's see. Yeah, if I was just buying it now, I would go for the A7C over the A7S III. Just because of the flip-out screen and I think it has the newer color settings and the gyro data, which is nicer. So, Steven, thoughts on Gerald Undone's video showing that S-Log 3 is the best footage for low light? So he didn't show that necessarily it's the best for low light, but he showed that essentially it doesn't make a difference. Like, you get the same amount of noise at the same ratio to your base ISO. So for S-Log 3, you get the same amount of noise. If you're starting at 640, you get the same amount of noise as you would in the default camera colors when you're starting at 80. And so it was interesting to me that we pulled that out, but it was very good. The thing with S-Log 3 is it gives you the most amount of room and the most amount of space to be able to edit, color grade, push, pull that stuff in post. And it gives you tremendous latitude in 10-bit to be able to edit that footage in post a lot. The one thing with the A7S III over any other Sony cameras that I've used so far is that even in the default camera colors right now, which I'm using Movie and Cine 2, I think. I can't even remember. But the thing about it is, even areas that are getting overexposed, like there's a certain amount of latitude you have to pull those highlights back down in post. Even though it's overexposed, it's still there. It's interesting. And Gerald referred to them as the super whites, but it's been astounding how much you can pull them back in post. So, hey, Pulsar, welcome. Agent J, need to learn a little more about S-Log setting. Do you have some videos on that? I don't yet, Agent J. I am working on some, but they might be a while. In the meantime, I would highly recommend you go watch Gerald Undone's videos on Sony colors and HLG. And I mean, he just does a fantastic job of laying all that stuff out. So yeah, that's where I would go because he's really good. Pulsar, is the rolling shutter that bad? On what camera, Pulsar? What camera are you referring to in the rolling shutter? ARAM, what do I think of the 5,000 and 10,000 noise pit on the A7S III S-Log 2? How do we get by? ND filter? Yeah, ARAM. So it's kind of normal. Like it just is what it is. So I try and limit myself on the A7S III to about an ISO of 6400 is kind of the max I'll go before I jump to the 12,800. But generally, ND filter, or if I have to stop down using the aperture, that works too. Either way. But I usually, like, if I want to keep my aperture where it is, then I'll have an ND filter, put an ND filter, variable ND filter, whatever I need to do to get there. But yeah, that's generally, if I'm starting to push toward a 6400 ISO, I would rather push over that and go up to the 12,800 and get over that noise bump to where it's clean again. So, let's see. AJ Jordan Lundell, welcome. I don't know if I've seen you on the stream before, but welcome. Thoughts on proxy workflow with the A7S III. Is it a pain or am I not using proxies? So honestly, I'm not using proxies. I'm shooting an XAVC-S in 10-bit in 422 in 24, 60, or 120. And then when I bring it into the footage, I transcode all of that to Apple ProRes because I'm using a 16-inch MacBook Pro from 2019. It's not totally spec'd out, but it's pretty spec'd out. And it does fine. It handles it fine. I haven't had to do proxies yet. Now, if I jumped into like the HS or the All-I, I might, well, not the All-I, but the HS stuff, I would have to probably do proxies just because, yeah, computers aren't ready to handle it yet. So, Pulsar, the A7 III. It's there. The rolling shutter is definitely there, but it's not terrible. Like, it's not as bad on like the A6500 or the A6000 or something like that. It's better than that, but it's definitely, there's some rolling shutter there. It's vastly improved with the A7S III, but yeah. So, but again, like the rolling shutter, to really show the rolling shutter like this, let's see if I can even make it happen in here. Like you really have to like, see, I'm ripping the camera back and forth. Oops. If I can get it back to where it was. There we go. Like, and even at that, it's hard to see it, you know. It gets easier if you have really tall, really stark contrast lines, but it's not that bad, I don't think. Nobody moves the camera like that anyway, so Pulsar, what do I think of Peter Lindgren? He's a cool guy. I like him. I like his stuff. I hope to meet him someday. We'll see. So, hey, Harrison. Did I see the disappointing specs of the M50 Mark II? So, a little different view on that, Harrison, Family Vlogs. I'm not surprised that they didn't, like, bump it way up, that it wasn't, like, this spectacular, amazing camera, considering everything else Canon's released this year. But yeah, I don't understand why they really released it the way it is. It does still look like a good little camera. It just, you know, with Canon, everybody always hopes that they'll do more than they ever will, I think, is kind of the thing. They just never will. So, ARAM, am I using V60 or V90 cards? So, I bought the CF Express cards purely because I'm like, if I'm testing this thing out, I'm going to test it out all the way. So, that's what I got for the A7S III. I've tried V60 cards. They work okay. The V90 cards, you can do almost basically everything except for 4K 120 in All-I. So I would do the V90, V60 cards if you can. If that's what you can do, then do those. But V90 cards if you can. And don't do the CF Express cards until, you know, 6 companies are putting their CF Express cards out and they're cheaper. Nathaniel D, what do I think of the Canon EOS R5 and the fake overheating and software timer limit? It's Canon, man. They always have a cripple hammer, and that's why I don't shoot Canon anymore. I loved Canon. I shot Canon for a long time. I really like their stuff. I love their colors. I love their sensors. But the fact that they always cripple their cameras just is a deal breaker for me. I couldn't do it anymore. So that's why I'm not with them anymore. So, Steven, you said, what am I editing in? You're wondering if XAVC-S is actually easier to edit than the XAVC-SI. You know, everyone is SI is easier to edit, but you had trouble. So, Steven, on that, the SI is easier to edit, and the reason for that is that it is a not as compressed codec. So your computer doesn't have to unpack the compression like it does with the S or with the HS or SH, whatever it is, the super highly compressed version, the 265 version. And that's why your computer sometimes will struggle with that. Now with the SI, you will struggle if your hard disk isn't fast enough to be able to feed your computer the information it needs while you're editing it. So I edit off of really fast SSDs for that reason specifically, because otherwise I will have trouble on everything else. Like even a 7200 RPM hard drive, I'll struggle with that. Like a G technology drive, it can't keep up with 4K footage, period, let alone the 4K footage that's in the A7S III. So, yeah, so I edit in Final Cut Pro, and I use Samsung and SanDisk SSDs to edit off of. Once I'm done editing a project, it'll go on a regular hard drive and go away. But that's my workflow, and I've been shooting everything in XAVC-S in 4K, 24, 60, 120, 10-bit, 422, and I haven't had an issue with it. But then I transcode everything when I bring it in, transcode everything to Apple ProRes, and that helps, I'm sure. So let's see. Tommy, welcome. Good to see you. A friend wants a full frame camera purely for photography. No need for video. Should you point him towards Canon or Sony or something else? Ooh, that is a really good question. I mean, I think I would push him toward the R6 and the RF glass, honestly. That's a really, really good system. It's a good price, and it takes fantastic photos. It does really well in low light too. So that's where I would go with the R6. But that's if he just no video ever, period, nothing. If he ever wants to do video, then I would go with the Sony A7C, the Sony A7 III, or the Sony A7R4 if he really wants to get like the massive megapixels. Ricardo, you missed the last one SD card for the A7C. Yeah, it only has one SD card slot. That's the only other problem with the A7C. That's the only, yeah. That's the only downside of the A7C is it only has one SD card. So if you need to do multiples, like redundant recording in case something happens, or like I do, I split so my photos are on one card and my videos on another card for when I get home and I can pull it all into my computer easily in post. That's the downside of the A7C. Harrison family will actually hear me, but you really wanted to go Canon if they came out with an APS-C camera comparable to the A6600. And that's the problem, man. Like they're not. They absolutely could. Canon has massive amounts of R&D and tech, but they won't. And yeah, I wish they would too. I was considering switching to the R6 or the R5 when they came out, but then after the problems and the limit and all that, I was like, no, I'm not switching to that. That's ridiculous. And then, of course, Sony announced the A7S III. I was like, I'm done. That's, yeah. Arturo, can you get into video with the A7 III, or do I recommend the A7S III? Actually, if you're getting started, get in with the A7 III or the A7C. Both of those do great video, and they work really well, and they're full frame, and they will get you in the system. And then as you collect lenses, if you want to upgrade later, you totally can. But yeah, I would jump in with the A7 III or the A7C. They're the same, 6 1/2 dozen basically, smaller form factor, flip out screen if you want to film yourself, or the A7 III, which is a little bigger body, little dual SD cards, and the fact that you can have custom buttons and stuff. Steven, maybe Premiere just sucks. I've heard a lot of people having struggles with Premiere, and I hope that Adobe updates it soon, but I don't know. Oh, and you're on a 2020 MacBook Pro? Yeah. So I know that Premiere and Mac don't always work well together. That is another issue. And I can't do anything about that, obviously, but yeah, it's unfortunate. I will say that. So I would do proxies. Have the camera build the proxies for you when you're filming, and then you're set. You're ready to go when you pull it into Premiere. There's an option to do that, and it works well. So. But yeah, if you, for a while there, Apple was offering a free trial of Final Cut Pro, but then there's also the option of like DaVinci Resolve. You could try that too, which you can try for free or use for free. I think there's limits to what you can do with it. There are limits to what you can do with it before you have to pay, but you might give that a shot. Yeah, that's right. Pulsar, both are great, but the A7 III is better, and it is more expensive. It's almost double the price, so that's why I would go with the A7 III if you're just jumping in. Because yeah, there we go. Rose brand. I'm going to look that up right now. Because that looks interesting. I'd like to see. Oh, yeah. Yeah, he'd have a lot of fun with a full frame lens. That's some great photos, great perspectives. He'd have a lot more fun with a full frame camera, I would think. But yeah, I would go with the A7C or the A7 III to jump in there, or the R6. The Canon R6 with the RF glass would be great. I'd probably lean that direction, actually, because and that's what it's made for. The Canon R5 and the Canon R6 are photography cameras. That's what they were built for. That's why the video thing kind of threw everybody. So true, Harrison. You're right. They would. That's right. Have I checked out the Panasonic S5? Just a little bit. I haven't really done a deep dive look at it yet, so I don't know enough to really be knowledgeable on it, but it looks like a good camera. The GH5 has been such a phenomenal camera for years now. Hopefully they'll continue that legacy. Sunrise, original Dobo switched away from Sony. Didn't catch why he did. What would it take to make me switch? So if Canon had done the R5 and the R6 without recording limits and without overheating issues, I would have switched probably to them. Yeah. The reason original Dobo switched was because his A7S3 pre-order is delayed till November or something like that, and he just didn't want to wait, so he went with a Fuji X-T4, which is another phenomenal camera. It's a great camera. But yeah, DroneScape, DaVinci Resolve 16 is great. It is. DaVinci Resolve is really actually a fantastic editing program, and the fact that you can try basically almost all of the features of it for free, and then if you decide you want to buy it, you get a few more things unlocked, plus higher frame rates and other stuff, is really cool. Ferris asks, I ordered the A7S III, aiming to film 24-hour videos without pause and use an external recorder, but the problem is storage. It won't be enough. Is there a way to connect two SSDs? So Ferris, you have to have the Ninja 5 or an external recorder with the drives on it. Like the A7S III won't record directly to an SSD. And yeah, other than going and buying a 4, 5, 6 terabyte SSD to record to from the Atmos Ninja, there's really no workaround around it. The only workaround around it would be having cards in the A7S III and have them automatically switch between as they fill up, and then you would have to just swap cards out. But that's a lot of cards, and that would be expensive. So I don't know that I would try that necessarily. Yeah, Gold. Do you want to buy a camera for shooting music videos in the range of $500 to $600? What would I recommend? $200 limit for lenses. Yikes. Let me see. There are some good cameras out there for that. I gotta remember what they are though. Let's see. I mean, honestly, the Canon TI series. You can buy them at Costco for $400 or $500. They're good. They're good. I would go with that. And you get a nice kit lens. It works well, and it will get you pretty much everything you need to do to shoot music videos. If you look at, there's a guy called Darius for Brit, or D4 Darius is his, Darius Brit, but D4 Darius is his YouTube channel name. He shot short films and award-winning short films and stuff like that on just ancient Canon 60D. So you could definitely do it. That's what I would look toward, is the Costco. Oh geez. Really? Wow. All right, let me try this and this, and there we go. So like the Canon Rebel T6 with an 18-55 kit lens is $399. That's a great camera to start with. It will do some really good stuff for you. The Canon T7, slightly better, 18-55 kit lens and some accessories from B&H, $449. So I definitely like there. That's what I would do, man. Something like that would be a really good way to go. You could get the Canon T7 with the 18-55 and the 75-300 kit lenses. It's a 24 megapixel sensor. Does, you know, up to full HD video recording 30p. So you don't get slow motion. Well, you get sort of slow motion if you work in 24, but it's really good. You can get the, what is it? The Rebel. No, let me see. I mean, you can get the M50 for $500-600, but I think you're going to start pricing yourself out pretty soon when you get up in there. So that's what I look. Some of that stuff would be the way I would go. I mean, you could get the M50 with the 15-45 kit lens for about $600-700. That'd be a good camera to go. That does have 4K recording. Yeah, good dual pixel autofocus and stuff like that. So that's where I would go. Hopefully I answered your question. Ricardo, what is the SD card with the minimum write speed I would recommend? I would get a V60 or V90 card for sure. Don't look at the write speed because that can be very misleading. It can be like, yes, it writes at this speed for 10 seconds and then it drops to half that. So look for a card with a V60 or V90 rating. And some of the best out there right now are Angelbird cards, and I think Lexar is making some decent ones too. But the Angelbird cards I've heard really good things about from lots of different people. So how good is the A7C camera quality? It's very good, just like the A7 III. Pretty much exactly the same. Hey, Tech Gear Talk. Welcome, Sagi. Leah and Chasen, D4 Darius on a 60D. Yeah, see, it's not about the tools so much as it is about how you use them. So that's why I'm like, go get a Canon T6 Rebel with a kit lens for $500 and shoot like crazy with that. It will work great for you for years. So yeah. Fares, I'm not sure. You may be able to. I haven't looked up what you can do with that, but you may be able to have it like transfer. But I think the only way it's set up right now is that like it does dual recording. It records to cards and the SD drive out. So yeah, your best bet is to get a Ninja 5, an Atmos Ninja 5, and the biggest SSD you can get, and then record in not 4K 60, not 4K 120, but 4K 24 XAVC HS, because that's the most compressed codec. And then if you want to save space, don't do 10-bit or 422, do 420 and 8-bit. That will give you the most amount of space in your SSD. A7C versus XT4 is 10 bits important. 10-bit is really only important if you plan to do a lot of color grading in post, a lot of work with your footage in post to push and pull it different ways. 8-bit is more than enough for almost anything you're going to post on social media, YouTube, stuff like that. So, yeah. But the Fuji X-T4 has fantastic colors straight out of camera. The Fuji cameras have really good color science, and you can use their film emulations, which is also really beautiful. So if you don't have any camera at all, the Fuji X-T4 is a great option, and it shoots some really fantastic video and really good photos. Sunrise, it might be. I haven't been watching, but 43, 40, I think, yeah. Well, it looks like we broke 45 there at some point. We had 51. That is a new record. Wow, thanks everybody. That's awesome. Yeah. Hey, AZ Drone Dude, you missed some fantastic Skydio footage earlier on. I'll play it again, just because I'm sure there are people here who haven't seen it yet. And then I'll continue to talk to you all through the chat. So let's see. Dominic Carter, oh, gold. So the M50 or the T7. You're not annoying me, man. That's why I have these live streams, for questions like that. So I hope that really helps you. And yeah, have fun creating. Dominic Carter, best solution for 4K 120 snobs that want the easiest computer handling, A7sIII. Honestly, Dominic, I've been using at 120. In fact, you'll see some 120 at the end of this video here. I've been using 4K 120 10-bit in X-AVC-S, and my 2019 16-inch MacBook Pro has not had an issue with it. I do transcode to ProRes when I put it in the computer, and then I edit off of really fast SSDs, which really helps. But even without transcoding, I haven't had an issue with it. So, yeah, the X-AVC-S or the X-AVC-I for sure, but definitely you want to be on a very fast SSD that is not your internal drive on your computer. You want to have it on an external SSD that you can edit off of. And an SSD is the only way to go. I have had issues with, thanks, Sagi. I've had issues with any other hard drives I tried to edit this stuff off of, other than like I've got SanDisk Extreme and Samsung T5 SSDs that I work with, and they're fantastic. Oh yeah. If you get the new NVE ME, that's fantastic. So, but yeah, that's been my workflow. Every A7S3 video you've seen, or every video you've seen shot since I got the A7S3 and posted since the A7S3, that's how I've been doing my workflow, and it has worked great. Let's see. Aerial guide. You have an A7 III. Should you get a Ninja 5 and keep the A7 III longer, or sell it, get the A7S III, but not have a recorder for a while? Thinking about getting the A7S III and no recorder. Isn't that beautiful? So this was shot in 4K 120 with the A7S III. So that's real speed there, real time. That ice face there that you see is about 90 feet high, and I'm up about 180 to 200 feet high on this rock. So those waves are, 6-7 feet high. It was astounding. I can't wait for you to see the video about the A7S III that I'm putting out next. Because it's not next, but it's the next video about the A7S III on my channel, because I was literally sitting there talking to the camera, and then this happened while I was talking. This started to happen while I was talking, so I'm like, I'm just getting out of the way, let it film in 420, and let it roll. And that's what I was able to capture, which was fabulous. Also, why you don't go up next to the front face of a glacier ever, because you have a house-sized chunk come down on you without any warning. Let's see. So this is it, AC Drone Dude. That's what I was talking about here. Aerial guide. So I would go no recorder, because the screen, the EVF on the A7S III is fantastic. And that's how I've been using mine, and I love it. It just that I really, really like it. So I would go with the A7S III and go without a recorder for a while, because it is it's such a fantastic camera, and it just has so much stuff that works so well built into it. Yeah, and then you're going to be set with that camera for 4 or 5 years, easy. Oh my gosh, it's 5:21. All right, folks. On that note, hey, listen, I appreciate you all being here tonight. I appreciate you hanging out with me and asking questions and bantering back and forth. And for those of you that are helping to answer the questions in the chat, I really appreciate that too. Yeah. Oh, Tommy, I didn't even see you said that the TI or the 800D, because it's much better than the M50. Yeah, and that's what I would go for. The TI, the T something series would be the way to go. So anyway, yeah. So I will be here same time, same place next week. There'll be a couple of videos coming out in between then. The new one I posted today, another one I'm posting Friday, and then one I'm posting on Monday, which will be the A7S III with some of the footage you just saw. Yeah, and how to use APS-C lenses and APS-C mode with this camera, which you can do, in fact, and in 4K. So yeah. But thank you all for being here. Thanks for being part of this community, part of the channel. Hope you all are doing well and stay safe. I'll see you again soon in the next video. Cheers, everybody.